My mom had a house. It was her dream house.
Right.
You were there many times.
I was.
When she built it, it was to be the house she was going to live in for the rest of her life.
Right.
And it was great. It was beautiful. It had a huge back sunroom, had a indoor swimming, like it wasn't a pool. It was one of those current, what's it called? I don't know. It's the ones where you can swim against the current for exercise. Mm-hmm. It was a great place. I loved it. But then she started noticing cracks developing and then spaces developing in the walls, from the floor to the wall. Well, it turns out she had a bad foundation. Things were going wrong. But it happened right at the end of the statute of limitations for it. So she tried to sue and figure out that the guy built it wrong, but for some reason it just didn't work out because it was a very hard thing to prove in court. So she ended up having to move. The house basically was just sat there.
Yep.
A guy finally bought it from her to redo himself. He was kind of a fix-it-upper guy. And he brought in a company to look at the foundation. And I don't know why they didn't do this in the trial, but they came in and did like an X-ray thing of it and figured out there was no rebar. There was no steel in the foundation. But it was too late for her to do anything about it. But the guy who built the house knew it had a bad foundation because he left some things out. Foundations are important for houses, but they're also important for relationships. And so what we're going to talk about today is a foundation that can help your marriage, your relationships last a lifetime. And we're going to help you put that in your life today on the show.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where our goal is to get you out of survival mode and into living a life that you can be proud of. I'm Reese.
And I'm David.
And believe it or not, he is my father. If you're watching the YouTube version, you see that we look almost exactly the same. I just have curly hair.
Much more hair.
Anyway, we are discussing the core of great relationships. Mm-hmm. And man, have you noticed that our society is absolutely obsessed with romance?
Yeah.
For every movie on brotherhood and war and, any kind of manly theme, there's got to be at least 10 movies that are entirely about romantic relationships.
Well, you look at, what is it, Hallmark in the holidays?
Oh, yeah.
They've made millions off of, from October to December. Mm-hmm. It's basically the same plot.
Yep. Just
in a different setting.
Yep.
And people watch it like crazy.
Absolutely.
It kind of becomes a thing now. Mm-hmm. And they're all romantic.
Yep.
Rom-coms are just a thing.
And it's always been this way, really.
Yeah, it has.
Before romance movies, there were romance novels, Jane Austen or whatever, all the way back to the 1700s. And before that, there were plays. There was, there's even romance in Greek mythology and different stories like that. So people have been obsessed with romantic relationships for thousands of years.
Yeah, and even today, you see people living through other people's relationships.
True.
You take the Swifties. The thing about Taylor Swift that's made her, I think, so popular is so many women kind of live through Taylor, and they can tell you everything about him. Taylor was with this guy, and then she wrote these songs, and then she was with this guy, and then she wrote these songs. They can give you the anthology of every one of Taylor's relationships. I think that's a little creepy.
A little bit.
But it just shows that we live through people. Mm-hmm. We watch the shows about it. We do the things, and it's a huge part of our society.
Yeah, and what's honestly sad, a lot of those celebrity romances do not last.
No.
They end messy. Yeah. And unfortunately, that also happens in many people's lives.
It is.
And nobody does that on purpose.
No.
Nobody walks into their, dating this person. They're never like, man, I hope we can get married one day and then end with a messy divorce that shatters our family. That just sounds great.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. But unfortunately, that often happens.
Yeah.
It's getting more and more common.
Well, you see the guy who's been married 5 times, And every one of them, he says, well, she did this, she did this, she did this. But the main common factor in all 5 of those relationships was him. But he never recognizes that. And we have to do that as men. We have to work to build that solid foundation of a relationship, or we'll become that type of thing.
Right. Because the truth is, you cannot control the other person in your relationship. Humans have free will. God gave it to us. Not even God's taken that away.
Yeah.
So you can't do that. But you can control yourself. And the ways that you contribute to an unhealthy relationship can be transformed into ways that you are contributing to a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
A lot of it starts with the inward work. That's why with Thriving Man, we say success is inside out.
It is.
Romance is no exception. In fact, it's one of the clearest ways. It's one of the clearest paths to show that self-work results in relational growth.
Yeah, if you want to build a strong relationship, if you want to have a marriage that's really, really good and have a good foundation, it really starts with you having a good foundation in your own life.
Absolutely.
And that's what we have to build as men. We have to make sure that our foundation is strong, because then we can build a good foundation for a relationship.
Absolutely. And if you're in a relationship right now and you find yourself, for lack of a better word, playing the blame game. Oh, they're mean, or my life's hard, or I'm busy. And you're playing this game for all the reasons why you can't do this foundational work. You have to drop that in order to even take the advice we're about to give you.
Yeah.
So please, for your own sake, realize that you are not a victim of your circumstances and how other people treat you. Yes, those things can happen. Yes, they can affect you, but they don't have to define you.
Yeah.
We can begin working on this foundational stuff because we do have control over ourselves. That's the good side of free will. God gave us that choice, and no one can take that away. So we're going to look at how we can develop ourselves inwardly and the benefits that that brings to a healthy romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Padre, start us off with the first thought.
Well, a good foundation for you as a man is built on character. You've got to be a man of character. You've got to be inwardly strong in who you are, in what you believe. You've got to let your passions come from that. As men, we're designed, God designed us to be men of passion, to be men of strength, to do the right thing, maybe when nobody else will. You know, some of our favorite videos are what? A guy who's walking in the street and all of a sudden sees a building on fire and he runs in and grabs people and saves them, or does stuff like that. Why? Because we recognize that's character. That's a man who does the right thing maybe when it's hard, maybe when his feelings are the opposite. And that's the way God made us. And we want to live that out in what we believe, how we do. You know, look at our society right now. As we've allowed character to take a backseat, as we've said, well, it doesn't really matter what you believe. It doesn't really matter if you believe in God or if you believe in whatever. You can still be a good person. We're not being good people. We see a lot of guys who are ate up with addictions, with guys who are players. We see guys who are just lonely and living all by themselves the whole time. As we've lost character as a foundation, I think as men, we've lost our ability to lead. We've lost our ability to have a good relationship. And a lot of lonely guys out there are living that way because they bought the lie to not work on their own foundation, which is their character.
Yeah. And character kind of has two different elements. One element of character is being aware that there is truth. You have to even have that. And that's what our society's lost is, like we say, there is no truth. And yet we call everything wrong. How can there be wrong without a right? So that's just dumb. But anyway, the second element, though, is a day-by-day, moment-by-moment decision to live in line with truth to the best of your ability. And that's where we want to have a differentiation here. Character, another word could be integrity, is not the same thing as being perfect, but it is the genuine pursuit of that which is right and that which is authentic. Because there are passions we have that may not be like a fancy, laudable value.
Yeah.
But we can be genuine to those
Yeah.
because that's how God wired us.
Yeah, and for a lot of men, it's understanding that your character is what directs and controls your passions. It's what directs and controls a lot of the decisions you make in your life.
Right.
And that's why you want to build your life not always on what you feel, but on what's the right thing to do. And then you direct your feelings the right way. You
Yes.
control your feelings. And we have a lot of men today who just aren't doing that. They're not
Yeah.
controlling their feelings. They're being controlled by their feelings, or we call them their appetites. I want this, so I go get it. When a man of character says, okay, I want that, but I know that's not good for me. So let me not do that. And that's what we have to understand. Men with character are solid. They make solid decisions, but it doesn't mean they're perfect.
Yeah.
But they're shooting to be better. And that's going to help them grow and improve, where men who don't have character tend to be selfish and tend to be self-centered. The whole world's about me. Everything's about me. They don't empathize with other people. They're not men of compassion. They're really men who are all about themselves and their needs and what they want.
Yeah, when you become obsessed with your own self and your own desires, your world becomes very small.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But when you become a man of character, when you begin to embrace larger values and see the bigger picture, your view expands. And you begin to see there's more to life than how I am feeling at this moment. There's more to life than what I want to do in this moment. I mean, the story of the guy going into the burning building to save kids, or any insert the name of the movie where a person sacrifices his life for another.
Yeah.
That's somebody who's looking at the bigger picture. Because the small picture is, heck no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I could get burned.
Yeah.
I could literally die or whatever. But they lay aside their own personal preferences for what's right. We find that attractive as men because that's who we want to become. And women find that attractive because they can see that that's the quality of life we all want to have. That's the kind of person we all want to be. So growing in your character is investing in a good foundation for your life and any relationship.
Yeah, and the secret of it, as far as why it helps your relationship be better, if you're a man of character, you have the ability to serve others.
That's true.
Because you can see the other people, you can empathize. And so what's going to happen is a woman is going to recognize that in you. She's going to see that you're not just all about you, you're all about her, you're all about the family, you're all about protecting them, you're all about that. And she's going to want that in you for her, but also for the children, for life in general. Right. She's going to know that you're a man who's going to protect her, who's going to watch over her, and also you're going to encourage her, challenge her, because you're a man who knows how to serve. And when you know how to serve others, that comes from a place of character. You're not doing it to manipulate. You're not doing it to control.
Yeah.
You're doing it to really help them be better. And she's going to recognize that because it's a character issue for you.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think there's this element of, that's why I believe healthy relationships are built on faith. Because when you acknowledge that there's something higher than both of you, that makes a healthy relationship.
It does.
Because the issue is, if you become selfless, but really you're just worshiping the person you're dating or your spouse, and your whole world and your whole life is about making them happy, things are going to fall apart.
Yeah.
The reason they'll fall apart is we don't always want what's good for us. And your spouse is not always going to want what's good for you, for them. They may want to spend money that they don't have.
Yeah.
They may want to go on a vacation when they can't afford it. They may want to stay at home instead of serving whoever, insert the name here. But when there's something higher than both of you, you as a man can begin to lead in a way of saying, honey, I know you want to do that, but this is right. And it's not easy, but we got to go do it. That is attractive ultimately.
It is. And that kind of brings us to the second thing, that when you're a man who's building a good foundation in your life, it's going to help your relationship, because a good foundation welcomes growth.
True.
A good foundation is when you are able to recognize, hey, I'm good at this. Hey, I'm not so good at this. And I want to get better at this. And it gives you the ability to change. Not that you have to change, but you want to change because you want to be better. And again, that's going to be attractive to women. When you're a man who says, yeah, I was here, but then I recognize I wanted to be here, so I changed this part of my life or that part of my life. Well, that's a thing that they're going to find attractive because you're a man who was willing to say, I wasn't doing well. It's going to show a place of humility in your life to go, I wanted to get better at this. Or I brought someone into my life who was better at this than I am. And they helped me bring this about. That shows your character. That shows that it's a place where you welcome growth. You don't have to be the guy who knows it all. And that's going to be attractive to her.
Yeah, growth is a matter of direction. And it's a matter of momentum. Momentum, human beings like momentum.
Yeah.
We like making progress. We like growing, men and women. Moving towards a goal.
Yeah.
Getting better. Life improving. It's such a core motivation to who we are. And it's such a core part about what health is. Like a healthy person grows.
Yeah.
And when they stop growing, it's usually a bad indicator. What kind of woman is going to look at a man and says, wow, he just goes to work, goes home, and watches the same show. He watches The Office on repeat. He's on his 13th time.
Yeah.
That is so hot. Nobody.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that man is stagnant. He's literally walking around in a circle.
Yep.
But when you walk in a direction, like, hey, there's the mountain. I'm not there yet, but I'm heading that way.
Yeah, I'm going that way.
That is so much more attractive to a woman. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at movies, what do we enjoy about a lot of our famous movies? We love the character development. You know, you think of Luke and Han in Star Wars, Sam and Frodo, or Aragorn and Lord of the Rings. You know, we look, one of our favorites, you know, Tanjiro and Deku, you know, two of our favorite animes. You see these characters evolving and growing and changing. And you're like, wow. And that kind of pulls you in because you want to think, I could do that in my life. I can grow. I can change. And you can. And that's part of having strong character is you're willing to say, okay, in order to be that, I'm going to have to put in a lot of work, but I'm willing to do it.
That's inspiring to us.
It is. It's inspiring. We all love it.
Yeah. And not only does every man want that, but every woman wants that. Women want to improve. They want to get better. That is a human thing. And so if you're doing that, it almost gives her permission to do that for herself.
Yeah.
Or if she's already doing that, it's like, well, we can make each other better.
Yeah.
So quality women that are growing are going to recognize that and be attracted to that. That is a huge positive. And I think we can't live in a place of hiding our weaknesses.
Yeah.
Like we talked about security last week, and that's a huge part of it. Part of embracing growth is embracing the fact that there are areas where you need to grow.
Yeah.
Or strengths that you need to develop in order to better contribute to other people.
Yeah.
That kind of self-awareness is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think women recognize in a man when he's strong enough to say, I need help. I'm not good at this.
That's true.
And that doesn't mean that the man is weak. It means the man is strong. Now, some women prefer a weak man. They prefer a man who lets her do everything because she wants to be controlling. Or she sees him as someone to fix and to mother. Well, eventually that's going to grate on us as men. We're not going to like that. We're going to feel, kind of surrounded and where we can't grow because we've given all of that away to someone else. And that's not what you want to be as a man. You want to be a man who's willing to say, hey, I need help in this. I'm not good at this. That means you're recognizing in yourself and you're strong enough to say, I'm not good. So I want to get better. And people can help you. It could be a coach. It could be another man. It could be your wife. That's the beauty of a love of relationships. I know when your mom and I were married, she was really good with the checkbook. She was really great with the finances because she loved the details. I didn't like the details. It just wasn't my thing.
I agree.
To me, it's the last thing I want to do is figure out where the penny went.
Yes.
But she loved doing that. I loved her doing that because I didn't have to, but she loved that I trusted her with that I trusted her to do that, and then she could help me with it. She didn't see it as a weakness. She saw it as a strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And self-control, self-discipline come from this place of a strong foundation. It's attractive, it leads to growth, and it also gives us the strength to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves, to be heroic. Everybody wants to have that element and be that person.
Yeah, and as a man, You want to develop your character. You want to develop that foundation because at some point in life, you may have to stand up either for your family, your children, or for those who can't stand up for themselves. I think of a guy like William Wilberforce, who was an instrumental person in the ending of slavery in the British Empire because he was willing to take a stand that nobody else would take. It wasn't popular, but it came out of his convictions, out of his passions, and he literally helped change a nation's view on something because he fought for it so strong. Yes. And that's what you want to be as a man of character, that you can fight for what's right no matter what people do around you.
Yeah. So a good foundation, it's built on character.
Yeah.
A good foundation embraces growth. But here's the cool thing. A good foundation attracts women with a good foundation.
Yeah.
Or if you're thinking in marriage, having a good foundation helps your spouse build a good foundation too. It is like, as men, we make the first move.
Yeah.
And building a foundation is one of the best first moves you can make.
Yeah. 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 Because if you're an insecure man, a lot of times you're going to attract an insecure woman.
Dangerous.
But if you're a secure man, then secure women are going to find you more attractive. And then you're going to bring the positives to the relationship. And that's what you want to do as a man. You don't want to just take anything. You don't want to just, she likes me, so I guess I'll stick with her.
Yeah.
You want to know, what do I like in a woman?
Yep.
What do I want in a woman? And she should be the same way. But when you're secure, when you have that good, strong character, that good foundation, you're going to find that the women you start attracting are the same way. And you'll be able to recognize when they're not.
That's true.
You'll be able to say, she's pretty, but she's pretty insecure. I don't want to be around her.
Yep, absolutely. And if we want to attract women of quality, we have to be men of quality.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's that simple. And I think character, when we develop that and we're growing and we're secure, we have that foundation, it becomes a healthy filter.
Yeah.
Because we recognize what it looks like.
Yeah.
We recognize what it looks like when a woman's not doing that and when they are. Now, that doesn't mean we have to have unrealistic expectations and say they have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But they need to be moving in the right direction the same way we do. Or if we're married and we're wanting our wife to step up, we step up first and we encourage them to go with us on the journey. We're leaders. We're not slave drivers.
Yeah.
We're not in the back cracking the whip.
Yeah.
We're up front saying, let's go.
Well, it's inspirational to a family if they see the husband or the dad doing that, growing, building the character. And if you're a single guy, you want to make sure that you're looking for a woman of character.
That's true.
Now, visually, you do want her to be attractive.
Yeah, it's not wrong to want to be with an attractive woman.
Yeah. You just want to make sure that her attraction is not the main thing, to where, I know guys like this. They get a pretty woman to date, but they're doing it to impress the other guys in their life.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with her. It's that she makes me look good. And what kind of sad relationship is that? You want to find a woman. You want her to be attractive, yes, but you want her to be a woman of character. Because if not, she's just arm candy. And that's not good for you. It's not good for her. You want to build a real relationship. That means your foundation and her foundation can match up, or at least be moving in the same direction.
Yeah, and men with a strong foundation, they're going to be the most honest and upfront.
Yeah.
We talked last week about not acting, not playing games, not pretending. A lot of it has to do with this foundational work.
It does.
It has to do with developing character and growing and developing, for a spiritual word, discernment in what kind of person you're with and what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
So if you invest in building this foundation, it will benefit you personally, but it will also put you in the right arena for attracting the right kind of woman.
That's good.
Or it will bring the woman that you are currently with into an even better arena. Everybody at their heart of hearts wants to get better.
Yeah.
Yes, we want an easy, comfortable life. But if we're honest with ourselves, I think we wish that we invested in a better life more so.
I think so.
And so when you invest in your foundation, that's what you're saying yes to.
Yeah.
You're saying yes to the higher call.
Yeah.
So what can we do about that if we want to develop that kind of foundational work?
Yeah. Well, I would say as a man, if you're married, what you want to do is begin growing yourself. begin growing yourself in front of your family. Let them see you becoming better. And again, we talk about the 4 main areas. You want to grow mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. You want to grow in all those areas. When your family sees you doing that, it's going to motivate them. It's going to challenge them. And plus, it'll help you see things in their life that you can speak to, not only inspire them, but then you can coach them and help them along that way. So if you're married, don't go in and try to, well, I'm going to force my wife to do this. I'm going to force my kids to do this. What you want to do is go in and live that life in front of them first. And then you build up the credibility to speak into their life.
Credibility.
I think that's the first thing in marriage. If you're single, you ask yourself a simple question. How am I growing?
Yeah. Well, are you seeing yourself growing as a man to genuinely get better, or are you just doing it to perform?
Yeah.
It has to be from a place of authenticity.
Yeah.
If like building a good foundation is not cosmetic work.
Yeah.
It's foundational work. And you know what? Foundations aren't that pretty.
Yeah.
They're not that glamorous.
Yeah.
They're in the dirt.
Yep.
They take a long time, but they build what you have to have in even order to get past that.
Yeah. And a lot of guys, what they do is they get in the trap of, let me be who I need to be based on who I'm dating.
Which is not real.
It's not real, and you're not going to know yourself. And then once you get married, then you might morph into someone completely different from who you were. And that's not fair for her. What you want to do is figure yourself out so that when you are attracted to a woman and she's attracted to you, she's attracted to the real you.
Yeah.
And that means you build your foundation. And that's what we have to do, build our foundation, become a man of character, develop convictions, develop beliefs, do those things you need to do to step up in your life and to be stronger inwardly, because that'll bring the foundation for your relationships and for everything you do.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about theory. We talked about the idea of character, the idea of growth, the idea of attracting the right kind of people. However, one of the best ways we can learn is through observing example.
Yeah, that's good.
We humans want to see you do it.
Yeah.
And then we want to emulate that.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody to observe that has shown character and growth in the best way, it's Jesus.
That's true.
So I would encourage you guys, we would encourage you guys, look at the Gospels and look at how Jesus lived. Even if you aren't a Christian, you have to recognize that Christ affected the world the most.
Yeah.
Literally, not just the most famous person of all time, but the most influential. We literally made the AD and BC based off of his birth.
His life, yeah.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
You know, I think we could say he had an impact, and he showed strength. There were times where he showed compassion. There were also times where he confronted.
Yep.
There were times where he humbled himself to serve, and there were times where he led through example.
Yeah.
He did it all perfectly, quite literally. And so look at his story and just go through and take notes. Take notes on, man, I could grow in that.
Yeah.
Or I can see part of that in myself. Let me lean into that. When we observe the example of Christ ultimately, but then even other people in Scripture, other people that have done well throughout history, we can begin to take pieces that resonate with us and grow in those areas.
Yeah, and that's what you want to do. Be open to that. Be open to examples, and then go after them. Don't just sit back and expect things to change without doing anything about it. You got to do the work. You got to put in the time, but you're building your own foundation. It's going to build a much stronger life for you, and it's going to really help to make those relationships you have a whole lot better and a whole lot stronger.
Exactly. So we're continuing this series. Next week's going to be our last week, but work on this. Look at those examples, invest in it, and we believe that not only will you be better for it, but the woman in your life.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.